You're listening to Hockey Talk on the Rock
Alright, stop!
with Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
Okay, hey everyone, lots of hockey stuff going on.
Yeah, welcome back to Hockey Talk on the Rock. We're going to be talking about our draft results, some trade talk, some re-signings.
Yeah, we'll focus most of this just on the trades and the resignings and the drafts. And then tomorrow we're going to have another episode, which is going to focus on all the free agents that have signed today, and then hopefully a couple more tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll give an update on our goalie carousel predictions. And
Not doing very good on that one,
we'll
I
have
can tell
shockingly
you.
probably worse results than our draft predictions, but
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah.
So, you want to start off, or?
Started off with the draft.
Yeah.
I think the NHL, just overall, that first day, it was long, but I think they did a pretty good job with the draft.
Yeah.
In terms of production for being
I was entertained.
virtual. Yeah.
Trebek coming up for
Trebek
that
was
pretty good.
awesome. There's the Dale Hawerchuk's wife, and then
Mhm.
there was the signing of the last draft pick there by San Jose.
Yeah.
I thought those were all nice touches to the night. They made it interesting to watch. But
Yeah.
overall, not a ton of trades, not a ton of action. Pretty much kind of what you would predict.
Yeah.
First round of a virtual draft to go like. I didn't really think there was anything too crazy, except once you get to the later picks.
Right.
Until you get to around pick 20, and then I think there was some crazy stuff.
There was a couple off-the-board ones there, for sure. I have to admit, I liked Calgary's maneuvering down the board.
Yeah, that was pretty smart.
For a couple third-rounders.
It seems
don't
like
like
they got
Calgary
a
at
pretty
all.
good player, too, there. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
But,
yeah, I was entertained. It was good. I'll say since Philly had a pick and
Yes.
Canucks didn't,
yes.
they took that Forster.
Yes.
Apparently that he has a sweet shot.
Yeah.
That's all
He
I know
seems
about
like
him.
a good pick.
I
Again,
was hoping they took a winger and they did. Call it a win.
there you go.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know, a lot of talent, right? Especially up front in the first round of this draft. It was just like super deep in that way.
Yeah.
And it will be very interesting to see how this draft class plays out, because there's like the 2003 class that had so much depth. If this class on 2015 as well, more recently, that
Right.
had a lot of depth to it, and people are saying that this class is meant to be like that. So it'll be interesting to see, especially in those later picks, who turns out to be very good and who
Yeah.
misses.
Yeah.
Columbus, for example, because they went completely off the board with their pick. And they're a group that, and we'll get back to this in a second, they seem to like taking risks in the draft. In 2015, when Puljujärvi, was it 2015 or 2016? No,
2016.
It was 2016. It wasn't McDavid. They passed on him, even though their GM is Finnish.
And they went with Dubois.
And they went with Dubois, and everyone thought they were crazy then. This is like that times 10, because the Sportsnet panel didn't even know who this player was when they selected him, which was my favorite moment, I think, of the draft. But, I wouldn't laugh at Columbus. I feel like they do a really good job scouting in Europe, so maybe it works out for them.
They've been bitten by Russian prospects before.
They have, but not with their GM now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And that's the one that I think that matters right now. But anyway, that was like the biggest kind of WTF moment of the draft.
Right.
That and New Jersey's pick immediately
The
before.
one before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
His name is too long.
It was fun. It was a fun name, but yeah, everyone was pretty surprised with that one as well. So, I'll give it to you. I'll give you the win and the nod. Congratulations.
It was pretty close.
Yeah, Laura got 6 out of 31 to my 5 out of 31 correct.
Yeah.
I will say that I did, because I felt like I was close on a few, I added up to see how many we were one pick away from being correct.
Yeah.
And I was 8 off by just 1.
Oh, well.
And you were 2 off by just
Okay.
1. So that
There
doesn't
you
mean
go.
anything to anybody except for me, because I'm a sore loser, but
It's okay.
just
I appreciate your risky maneuvering in the first 3, because, yeah, I honestly thought that top 3 could have gone those Stützle Byfield. I wasn't 100% sure, so I was very happy that
Right.
it went the way that I thought it would. But really, outside of the top 4, I was very proud of picking Raymond
Yeah,
to Detroit.
that was a nice pick.
But outside of that, I got 2 right the rest of the way. So, like, it's pure luck.
It's always a crapshoot, but it was fun.
It was fun.
And on maybe the final note, I will say that I got the Russian goalie correct, and
That
that pretty
was
well
good.
gives me the win, I think.
Yeah,
anyway.
there you go.
So, final note for me on the draft is, the Canucks didn't pick that many, especially not in the first 2 rounds, but they picked I liked what I heard about Yoni Yermo and then Jake Truscott, who they got in the 5th round. 2 big defense that I think eventually will fill needs for them, hopefully.
Yeah, they went big on the D, literally.
Yeah.
All the players they drafted, I think, were over 6 feet, and most of them were defensemen except for one, I believe. So that will be interesting to see how those late round picks turn out. They had to do a lot with very little because they couldn't get into those higher rounds. And we'll see. We'll see how it goes. And, just on kind of one side note to that, because I know there's a lot of people that are mad that they traded that 2nd round pick to get Toffoli.
Right.
And regardless of what happens with Toffoli, I personally think it was worth it because at the time when they traded for Toffoli, Besser was injured. They were spiraling out of a playoff spot. They really just wanted to get into the playoffs, and they did. So, for that reason alone, I think it's okay.
Yep. It happens every year.
It
and
happens.
Teams pay more than what they paid for their rental. So,
yeah,
it happens, and, it's
Toffoli fit in well. It could have worked out really good, right?
It's true. And they paid for some experience for the young guys.
Exactly.
And that was critical. So,
anyway, that's my end of the draft talk.
Okay. Re-signings or trade talk?
Let's go into the trades first.
Okay. So I'm going to try to do a new little segment, or attempt to, that I want to call Winners and Participant Ribbons, where we're going to talk about trades, and at the end I'll award my participant ribbon to the one team and the winner to the other team, and I'll see if you agree or disagree.
Okay.
So I'll kick it off, and then we'll just see how it goes.
Sounds good.
So the first trade since we talked last was Oli Mata got traded from LA to Chicago for an ECHL player named Brad Morrison.
Yes.
My opinion is that this was just clearly a salary dump for Chicago.
Yep.
It's too bad. Mata's still 26. He did have kind of a down year in terms of he only had 17 points. And an even plus minus during the season, but in their short run in the play-in and playoffs for 9 games, he had 3 goals and 3 assists, which I thought showed kind of a something, yeah. Yep. Maybe a bounce back, because a lot of players, like you said before, saw it as a second season almost.
Yeah.
So I thought he's worth more than an ECHL player, even at $4 million for 2 more years. So I want to give the participant ribbon to Chicago on this one and give the winner to LA and picking up a much needed defense for them. What's your thoughts on this one?
I almost feel like both sides kind of win because, and I know that's really lame to say, but Chicago needs cap space. They just re-signed Kubalik to a new deal.
Right.
And I think it was in the $3 million range. So really getting rid of Oli Mata for Kubalik, or for the ability to re-sign Kubalik, is worth it, I think. And also the reports that I've heard about Mata is that he's 26, he's a former first-round draft pick, but he's slow. And I think he's serviceable, so that's why I say I also think that LA gets kind of a win out of it. They're a rebuilding team, they need someone on that blue line. He's a body, he'll play there, but I don't think he would have been a good pickup really for a team that's trying to make it into the playoffs.
Okay.
So I say win-win.
Win-win. Okay, fair enough. I'll let you lead off on the dissection of the next one.
Yes.
Ryan Donato to San Jose for a 3rd round pick from Minnesota.
Well, I don't, again, this is another one that's hard. Maybe I'll say Minnesota gets the win on this one, because I don't think Ryan Donato really has much worth. I don't know what San Jose is doing. They've made a bunch of kind of random signings and trades recently.
Yeah.
I'll give it to Minnesota, but it's close.
Okay. So I said Donato with only 1.9 mil left for 1 year and a 2nd round pick. 24 years old, career high, 14 goals last year.
Yeah.
So it seemed like a low risk for a third round pick to me for San Jose, even though I agree with you. I don't know what San Jose is doing.
Yeah.
I went winner San Jose, participant ribbon Minnesota.
Sure.
Because I also really don't know what Minnesota's up to.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to say that anything that Minnesota's doing is a win right now.
Yeah, and on to that, I gave them the win in the next one.
The next one, yeah.
For Dubnyk to San Jose for a 5th rounder.
Yeah.
It's only a 5th. It was a salary dump for Minnesota, but they did not believe in him, and I don't believe in him, and I definitely do not believe in
Their
the Jones-Dubnyk combo.
It's very similar to what Dallas used to do with Lettinen and who was their other goalie back in the day?
The other Finnish
Was it
goalie.
Niemi? No, it wasn't Niemi. Anyway, they had 2 goalies that weren't very good, and they're like, we'll put them together, and then they'll be okay, and they weren't.
Right.
And this is kind of reminds me of that. It's like we have 2 borderline NHL goalies. I mean, Dubnyk had a couple of very good years, but he's past his prime, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know with Martin Jones if he'll ever regain any ability to play net. It sounds sad. It's kind of like the Corey Schneider situation where, you know, he had some good years and then something happened and he doesn't have any confidence anymore. So I don't believe in him right now either. So yeah, I'll give Minnesota the win on that one, I guess.
All right, participant ribbon to San Jose.
Yes.
Josh Anderson to Montreal for Max Domi in a 3rd.
Okay, so I'm going to actually say I'll give Montreal the win here, which I know is controversial. I'm not saying about the signing, because I think that their deal with Anderson afterwards was dumb.
Right.
But the actual acquisition of Josh Anderson, I think, is a good move for Montreal. I think Max Domi was clearly not in their plans for the future. He is a centerman. They have Kotkaniemi and they have Suzuki are going to be their 2 top centers. They also have Deneau who can play center, so there's 3 there. You're not keeping Domi to play on the 4th line. Domi is small. There's a ton of small players in Montreal, kind of exactly the same player as Max Domi. Anderson is different. The other flip side kind of to this as well is that other teams really wanted Anderson, including Toronto, so I think Montreal almost gets a win here because they got him instead of one of their rival teams. I think the return for him was heavy. I think Domi, though, is not... I don't think he's as good as people think he is.
Right.
So I think that it kind of makes sense, but again, both teams fill a need. Montreal they needed a big winger. They needed someone who could play a power forward game. And Columbus clearly needed a second line center. So it works out both ways, but I'll give it to Montreal.
Okay, I don't. I give Montreal the participant ribbon in this one because I just feel like looking at their stats, Domi is better than Josh Anderson every single year of their career, and they used to play on the same team in the O.
Yeah.
And Domi crushed them there.
They were both Bo Horvat's groomsmen.
That's right. And so, you know, Anderson has a bit of injury problems. He had 0 goals and 4 assists last year in 20 games. I know they say he was hurt or whatever, but, you know, to give up Max Domi and a 3rd for someone who's unproven and injury prone, I'm not so sure. I think, I know you say Domi isn't as good as people think he is, but he's only really played in offensively deprived teams in Arizona and Montreal, and I think...
But do you think that Max Domi's going to play well for John Tortorella?
No.
That's my bet.
I don't think he's going to play well in the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah.
But I still think he's going to be a better player for Columbus than Josh Anderson will be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Anderson in Montreal makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think they needed that type of player, but I think the price Montreal paid was too much.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways.
I think the deal that he signed was outrageous. That's the part where I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing, I get it, and then they signed the deal, and I'm like, okay, you had me, and then... Yeah,
because if that's the deal, like Toronto, when they've been able to afford that.
Oh, no.
So,
no. I mean, who really would?
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Next up, Matt Murray to Ottawa for a 2nd rounder.
Yes.
I was... You know, everyone knew Matt Murray was on the move.
Yes.
I was a little bit surprised it was only a single second rounder.
Yep. I think goalies always you don't get as high a return on goalies as you ever think you will. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that that's a smart move for Ottawa. They are a young team. They have now a young goalie. A proven young goalie, and hopefully he can bounce back in Ottawa. He's from Thunder Bay, so he's local Ontario boy. So I think it's a nice story. Good job, Ottawa.
Yeah, me too. Ottawa takes the win. Participant ribbon.
Yes.
Pittsburgh.
Yes.
I guess they did get Jonathan Gruden in the deal as well, and he looks like an okay defensive prospect.
Yeah.
Still, I don't think they got enough for
No.
a young goalie who won 2 cups, but whatever.
I also say, like, for Murray, I think it's really nice for him to get out of Pittsburgh. I know the Pittsburgh fans were really hard on Murray because he wasn't Marc-Andre Fleury, evidently. That's the thing out of Pittsburgh. And it didn't really make sense to me because, as you say, he won them 2 Stanley Cups. Fleury won them 1 and then was very shaky in the playoffs for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
But good for Murray to get a new start. So hopefully he does well.
Yeah, okay. I think he'll do okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who they have playing defense in front of them, which is a nice little segue into their Gabranson trade.
There you go.
So Ottawa acquired Gabranson from Ottawa for a 5th.
From Anaheim.
From Anaheim, sorry. I don't remember. Who did I say?
Ottawa from Ottawa.
Ottawa from Ottawa. That would be funny. It's probably because this is another one of those deals.
Money around themselves.
Where I don't know who I can pick a winner for. I want to say Anaheim because they don't have Gabranson playing on their defense anymore.
At 2.8 mil.
At 2.8 mil. However, Ottawa, as you mentioned before, needs to spend money, and so Gabranson is someone that they can pay who will play for them. He's a defenseman. I can't imagine him and Zaitsev playing together or playing on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
It will be very interesting for Ottawa. I'll give it to Anaheim for getting rid of Gabranson, but again, Anaheim's going to need defensemen as well, so...
Yeah, I mean, 5th rounder isn't much, but, I think it's more about the cap for them. I'm glad you jumped into that one, because I was going to cede to you, because I was participant ribbons all around on that one. Just I didn't care for that trade whatsoever.
No, yeah, it makes very little sense.
And then it leads to the next trade. Ryan Murray went from Columbus to New Jersey for also a 5th rounder, and my instant reaction was, how did they only pay a 5th rounder for him when a 5th rounder is the price for Gudbranson? How are they worth the same?
I don't get that one, and I was kind of mad that, the Canucks didn't maybe make a call about Ryan Murray then because of their defensive situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're paying a 5th rounder for Ryan Murray, he hasn't turned out to be the player that he was drafted to be, but he's definitely more serviceable than Gudbranson, and I think New Jersey wins this one hands down. I don't get it, except for the fact that Columbus is clearly trying to clear cap space. They bought out Wenberg, they traded Anderson, they
traded Nudavara,
and then they traded Murray, and maybe they're going big on Taylor Hall is the rumor. I don't really understand that because I don't think that Hall wants to go to a team that's not necessarily a contender.
Yeah.
And Columbus, while they're a borderline playoff team, is not, in my mind, a contender. But if they chuck a whole bunch of money at him, who knows? So I don't know what else Columbus is up to because they have cap space. They're clearly dumping to get more. So anyway, it will be interesting to watch Columbus in the next few days.
Yeah, I think so. I guess the only other, there's a couple big ones left. Nashville traded Nick Bonino, a 2nd and a 4th to Minnesota for Luke Kunin and a 3rd.
Yeah.
I was scratching my head right away because I couldn't understand why Minnesota, who's rebuilding, traded Luke Kunin away, who's 22. They took him number 15 overall in 2016. He had his career high last year with 15 goals, 31 points.
Yeah.
And which, by the way, Bonino only had 18 goals and 35 points, so being 10 years older and 4 points more.
Makes no sense.
I didn't get it. I really don't get it. But so, besides all the head scratching I did, I went, I think Nashville wins this trade.
Obviously Nashville, right?
Yeah.
The only thing I can think about from Minnesota's perspective is that Bonino's a center. But that's it.
But so was Kunin.
Yeah, that's it. And Kunin is going... He's going to have, an NHL career. Bonino is at the end of his. I don't get it.
I don't either.
Yeah.
So, yet another participant ribbon to Minnesota. I think that was maybe the 3rd one now. They're doing good stuff, apparently. At least in our expert opinions.
Yeah.
What do we got left? We got 2 left.
Yes.
Elias Anderson to
Right.
LA for a second rounder. I
Yeah.
find myself, again, this was another one where I was scratching my head going, New York took him 7th overall.
Yeah.
Like, what was it, 3 drafts ago?
Yep, the Pedersen draft.
The Pedersen draft. And, I mean, if they really don't believe in the player or his attitude or whatever, maybe they're happy they got a second round pick out of it.
Yeah.
But,
I think it's one of those cases where they probably kind of put themselves in a box because his value went down, right? As soon as he didn't want to play for New York and they clearly didn't want to have him around, it's like, how do you trade that when teams know that you want to get rid of him?
Right.
I think a second rounder is probably as good as they could have done unless they traded him like for another prospect like that's not working out with a team, right? And I don't think that New York's really interested in that right now because they have so many young, for sure, prospects that are coming up. So it makes sense to me they do the second rounder. I think that LA, though, wins this trade. I think it's worth the second round gamble on him, and he can fit in with their up-and-coming young group there.
Yeah, no, I agree because he's, had 3 years since the draft to grow, mature, develop.
Yeah.
So, they've got an advanced 7th overall pick, you know, for, a lottery ticket and a second rounder. So, I give the win to LA and a participant ribbon to New York in this one. But on a final note here, I did think it was also weird that LA was the dance partner because they just drafted Byfield, and that's like now their 5th straight center in the first round.
I assume that for them they'll probably try to move him to the wing.
Right.
And it's better, right, to have too many centers than too many wingers. It's easier to transition them. So
yep.
I don't think it's a bad problem to have. Guys that can play center are always wanted, but yeah, I agree. It's a lot of centers, a lot of young centers in LA.
Yeah.
Byfield is obviously going to play center. I don't know about any of the other ones straight away, right?
Yep.
But yeah.
All right. Last trade on the winners and participant ribbons is just quickly this morning before the free agency period opened. Vegas cleared some cap space.
Yes.
Trying to do something today by trading Paul Stastny.
Yes.
For his final year at 6.5 to Winnipeg for a 4th round pick and Carl Dahlstrom, who is like a C grade prospect.
Yes.
Like I already said, Vegas is clearly clearing cap, which could mean something and benefit them. But in
this
just
trade,
looking at the trade, I think Winnipeg walks away happily with the win on this one because they were desperate for a second line center. They found out later in the day, or they probably knew before it broke, that Brian Little's recommended not to play for the whole season. He was a great fit with them last time. I mean, I looked into the advanced stats a little bit, and they're all pretty similar for him, except his shooting percentage went way down. Yeah. But he's always been a pass first kind of guy, and if they put him back on that line with Ehlers and Laine, I think he'll, he's older, so he might not fit like a glove as much as he did last time, but I think it's going to fit well for them.
I think it's a low-risk play for Winnipeg. I don't think Stastny is going to perform to the same level that he performed the first time he was with Winnipeg. I thought this year in the playoffs he looked invisible, just watching Vegas, and I just don't see him returning to his form that he had earlier in his career. But that being said, the price they paid is more than enough for the gamble. Yeah. So I think Winnipeg walks away winning this, but I don't necessarily think it's going to make them... Well, it'll make them better as a team because they have someone to play that second line center, as you say, but I don't think it's going to make them necessarily a contender.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I think I can see Paul Stastny walking away with a 55 to 60 point season.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Even with those line?
Even with those line mates, I just think that he doesn't, I don't know, this is just from watching him in the playoffs. To me, he was like one of the clear players on Vegas that didn't have it. Okay. And maybe I'm taking too much from this set of playoffs because it was the bubble and all of that. Yeah. I think the other thing that's really playing in the favor of Winnipeg right now is he only has a year left on that contract. Yeah. If it was more than that, I would say that be more thinking that maybe Vegas wins. Okay. But it's only a year. He might come out and have 50, 60 points, as you say, because it is a contract year and players are usually motivated. I just don't see it. I don't know why. I don't, but...
We're going to clip this and we'll come back to this in a year.
I'm prepared to be wrong, but I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, on my notes, that was the end of the trades.
Yes,
Um,
just the
quick-
re-signings.
Just a few re-signings to get to before the free agency happened. And I only had a couple little notes here, so I hope you have a few things in mind. But I just quickly, as a Flyers guy,
Yes.
was surprised and definitely disappointed to hear that Matt Niskanen retired.
Yep.
Looking at his stat sheet, he was 50 games away from playing his 1,000th game, which was the biggest surprise to me because that's a giant milestone in the NHL.
Yep.
And a lot of people thought he was kind of on the decline when he got traded for Gudis. I thought he was an amazing fit for the Flyers last year. He played super well with Provorov. It was almost not in the same Hughes Tanev way, but
Similar.
so complimentary.
Yeah.
So I mean, it saved Philly $5.75 million for this year, but they got to use it now.
Yeah.
So sad to see him go. It was a good career for him. He got a cup, and in a kind of panic re-signing, they re-signed Justin Braun
Yes.
like within an hour after that for 2 years at 1.8, which
How do you feel?
good enough for a third pairing defense, I guess. He's a penalty killing specialist, and then he's just kind of a slow liability 5-on-5. So
Yeah.
whatever.
It is what it is. I
Yeah.
mean, I think the takeaway from all the re-signings, like DeMello re-signed, Dylan re-signed, and then Braun re-signed. And you look at the trade that Montreal made earlier for Edmondson that they signed, it was almost like they saw coming that a bunch of those D-men that are all kind of in the same group, I would say, we're going to just take their deals with their original teams.
Right.
And that kind of has affected the Canucks here, right, too? Because those are all players the Canucks probably could have gone after for similar deals, a couple million, to fill in that bottom pair of defense. And they've all re-signed with their own teams, so they're going to have to look
Dylan and
outside.
DeMello were two that I was really hoping would get to free
Me
agency.
too. And, I was more surprised by DeMello than I was with Dylan.
Because he was new to Winnipeg.
Yeah, and I'd heard that Dylan really liked it in Washington, so I wasn't totally surprised that he re-signed there. But DeMello, I thought, would maybe test the market, and he would have been a good fit in Vancouver, so that's too bad. I mean, who knows if he made it to free agency, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's kind of my take on the re-signings.
Yeah, I had Paul Jarvi coming back to Edmonton.
Yes. If he's motivated to be in Edmonton, I still think that he could be a top 6 winger for them. It'll be interesting to see how Ken Holland deals with him because, if you look back at Jonathan Drouin in Tampa Bay when he sat out and said, I don't want to play for the Lightning, and then GM Steve Yzerman, I was going to say Joe Sakic, that was the wrong ex-pro, let him come back on his own and then waited and then traded him for Sergachev. And you wonder if Ken Holland is going to take a similar approach where he lets him play, raises his stock a bit, and then moves him still, or if he'll keep him there.
Right, depending on the fit, I guess.
I guess so, right?
Yeah, with his numbers that he put up in the league last year, you kind of think if you can keep the confidence, he should be able to put the puck in the net playing with McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, you'd think it would be okay, but again, it's like kind of the Sidney Crosby problem, right? When you have those elite level superstars, it's really hard to find players to play with them, which seems like ironic almost. Yeah. But yeah, I think that it's probably going to work out for him in Edmonton. And the other signing that we both actually got right on the goalie carousel was
Robin Leonard back in Vegas.
And they tried really hard to move that Fleury contract at the draft, but no one would take it. So that's also part of the reason I believe why Stastny got traded was because they needed to move cap somehow. But it looks like right now they're going with that tandem, though I've also heard rumors that if they can get rid of Fleury, they really would like to bring Greiss back to play with Leonard because they played before in New York together, right?
I think they're working on, I read that Martinez is on the block as well as Pacioretty's on the block too.
They're really trying to get rid of space, but they've now got to be the front runner for for Pietrangelo, right? That's the other thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
forgot about that.
It will be interesting to see what happens there, but Vegas is clearly up to something. Leonard was a good fit with them. I think he's clearly the right goalie for them to go with moving forward. So
5x5 is not bad.
5x5, especially if you look at what Ryan Murray. The other Matt Murray, I've said that 5 times, what he signed for in Ottawa, I think that Leonard's a good deal for Las Vegas.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, yep. Pujaravi's back. Good job, Edmonton. Don't screw it up again.
Don't screw it up again. Go get a goalie. Sorry.
Try to get a goalie.
Try to get a goalie who wants to live in Edmonton.
Yeah, fly fishing in the mountains.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
That's all I've got for this episode. If you any,
I think that's it for tonight.
Okay.
Again, tomorrow night we're gonna come film another episode. It will all be about the free agents. Hopefully we have some more clarification then about where Pietrangelo goes and Hall goes, but it might be a couple of days for them still. So, yeah. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll be back.